Hello, is this thing on? Is anybody out there? We are back with season 4 of the Sticks and Bones podcast. Hi, Dr. K. How are you?
I'm good. I'll be completely honest with you. I forgot what season we were on. I was
So did
about to
I.
post on my story earlier that, we were filming and like we're coming back and everything, and I couldn't commit to 3 or 4, and I was just like, you know what? New season, same house.
I forgot as well, but then I remembered since I do a lot of the podcast uploading that it was season 4. And I was like, I cannot believe we've been doing this for 4 seasons. But listen, we've been gone for 2 months, and the girls have been asking, when is the Sticks and Bones podcast coming back? And to be honest, we decided to take a long break because, we were tired. We were exhausted.
When you before we got on, when you were like, "Oh my gosh, we've been gone for almost 2 months," I it didn't feel that long, but I know that we've been getting like a lot of DMs and emails about like when you guys coming back. Like I've blown through all of the content that's available. Like, when are you two coming back and reviving Sticks and Bones? And we're here. We heard you. We heard the thumbs from the mortal realm,
You
and we were
summoned us.
you summoned us. You hit the ground twice. So many of you did.
I know. I was like, oh yeah, like we weren't really off. We were planning the season of Sticks and Bones. So don't think we were like not thinking about it. I couldn't wait to come back today. And I think this year, this season is going to be so amazing. We're doing things a lot differently this year. We have some exciting announcements, even in the temple coming out this year, because while we were off from the podcast, the girls never stop working. So Dr. K and myself have a planner full of exciting things, and we really are shaking things up with the podcast. But before we go into it, how was your time off? I know I have seen you, I see you all the time, but for the good people that listen to us, did you have a good holiday? What's going on?
I had a good holiday. We've got a ton of snow, so it was like extra wintry here, which like I feel when you are going on like a winter or a holiday break at the end of the year, it's nice to be like, oh yeah, like it is that time of the year. I am going to go into hibernation mode. So it was nice. I had to teach a whole course over the winter break, so that was fun.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to be back. It's been a minute. It was nice just hanging out, but man, I'm so excited to just like unravel and unroll everything that we've been working on, because let me tell you, we literally have everything planned out for mystery boxes for the entire year, you guys. We might not be podcasting, but we know that.
We do know what's going on. We've had a lot of great ideas, and I think it's good to take some time off to just kind of allow creativity to flow again because I was getting burnt out towards the end. I mean, everyone gets burnt out towards the end of the year. So it was nice to
Yeah.
just have like a 2 month break.
It was nice. Got to go like focus on like more personal things, like my own personal research, work, conferences, that kind of stuff. But what about you? I know I literally talk to you every single day,
Every
but
day.
what is new with you?
Honestly, like a lot. I feel like I've just been working on just getting back to myself, like a lot of self-care. I'm hibernating. I am dedicating myself to keeping my body healthy and sustainable. So I've been doing a lot of meditating and yoga, and it was just so nice to just focus on myself for once. I'm always focusing on like, what do I have to do next? So I took this break to kind of come back to me. I'm back doing my mediumship readings. Announcement for those of you listening to us. We do have our own separate YouTube channels now, which I completely forgot.
Oh,
We decided that
I forgot.
the Dirt Diaries and Mind Change to High Priestess Chelsea belongs on its own platform since the content is very different. And we're going to be doing a lot more here at Sticks and Bones. So if you are looking for our podcast on YouTube, they now have their own YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe. I will leave them in the description if you're trying to find Ten's channel or Dr. K's channel or my channel. I will leave it in the show notes. So if you're like, oh my God, they have not been podcasting even on their own. No, no, we have. We've just decided to go elsewhere. So
True. I'm still on a break for mine. I will not be back until February.
you know what? Good for you. I had to come back. I filmed
Yeah.
so many things and I was too excited. So I was like, I came back like 3 weeks ago and I'm just like waiting for Sticks and Bones. Like, where can I talk about the Greek myth stuff? Because I'm ready to talk about it today.
No, I totally get that. I'm stockpiling my stuff. Like I am
I don't
like
blame you.
getting ready to just let it all go.
I don't blame you. So, for those of you that are following us here on YouTube and are like, oh, I also like your own individual podcast, well, they have now moved elsewhere. So, just a
Yes.
little announcement. Second announcement before we begin today. We have some exciting announcements about what this episode even is. But in the temple, the girls have been working. We have been working. We now opened a second store on Etsy. So, for those of you that are Etsy people, you can
Hmm.
find all of your Greek myth inspired items for the gods. Maybe you're a Greek myth person. We're really going to be diving into a lot of Greek mythology this year, and a lot of the items in the store are inspired by gods and their myths.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
So excited.
I
Can't
know
wait.
we launched a Selene and Helios candle. We've launched a Nyx candle. So definitely opening up the doors to more things and gods within the store. So don't forget to check that out and follow us at Styx and Bones Temple on Instagram to keep up with our mystery boxes, which will be coming soon. So, we have so many fun things planned. I'm excited.
So many fun things. And of course, if you are looking for more Sticks and Bones, you can go ahead and join the mystery cult over on Sticks and Bones Patreon, where we are reading Hera currently for book club.
So
So
good.
we already dropped part one, part two is coming out in February. So I'm really excited. Chelsea and I dropped an episode on looking at the sacrifice of Iphigenia and
Mhm.
looking at that one story, where Artemis came down and saved her and transformed her into Hecate.
Yes, a take that I've never ever heard anybody talking before until you and I were like sifting through some of the endings because that myth
Mm-hmm.
has like a few different endings depending on
Yeah.
what source you're looking at. So the Hecate one was interesting. So for all of our thoughts on that, check out our Patreon. We've been reading Hera and we're also going to be doing the hymn to Demeter, which is the kidnapping of Persephone. We're going to be giving you all of our thoughts on what we think is going on with that story because there's lots of thoughts.
Lots of thoughts, lots of annotations. So grab your highlighters from 10th grade honors English because we're annotating.
And speaking of lots of thoughts, wow, I'm really good with my segues this year. Like, clock me on that.
You really said new season, new transitions.
New
We love
season,
it.
new me. Maybe it's all the meditating I'm doing. I just feel like, thoughts just come to me and I'm like very divinely inspired, you could say. But we have decided to start a series. We have multiple series coming for the podcast. This series that we're starting today is called the Symposium series. Now, a symposium is a place where people gather together in the ancient world and really kind of debate and talk about topics. Um, some famous philosophers and have done this. And so Dr. K and I were thinking like a lot of people just kind of don't really think about the Greek myth more than what's on the page. But like you and
Mhm.
I have so many thoughts about how a Greek myth goes or how we're both interpreting it.
Yeah.
And it can really inform you about a god's personality or what a god is like if you look at the myth. And
Mhm.
sometimes myths also reflect our own lives as well,
Mhm.
depending on things you've been through or interactions you've had in this world. Like everyone has a different interpretation of things.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be starting this because I mean, the ancients back in the day, they would be throwing, dinner and drinking parties, and they would be talking about myths, philosophy, religion, news, politics, all of that kind of stuff. And what really kind of prompted this was not only like our inner thoughts and shower thoughts and monologues that we share with each other every single day of our lives, but, you know, especially with what we're going to be covering today, topic wise, it really, like, I don't know, fits perfectly with like the crazy Homeric frescoes from the Trojan War, from the Iliad, depicted in Pompeii. And like Chelsea and I were just thinking, what would it be like if we were back 2000 plus years ago at a dinner and drinking party, after dinner, looking at the painted frescoed walls of scenes of Helen of Troy meeting Paris
Mhm.
or Apollo and Cassandra? What would we interpret and what would we know? Like, I want to bring that back. I want to bring the ancient dialogue back.
And there's not enough of it in modern day. I feel like people
No.
don't really think about these things anymore. People kind of just take things for face value and don't actually look underneath the surface. Like we had this conversation about critically thinking and how like I just feel like as a society, we don't critically think anymore because everything is just instant gratification. You're like, you can easily look up the question that we're going to talk about on this podcast episode and
Yeah.
find it in the AI of Google, right? But what is it like when you're reading a myth and you're interpreting it? What does
Yes.
that feel for you? And I feel like that's why people connect with Greek mythology so much is because they resonate with stories. And this one today, we're going to be talking about Zeus. And like, there's one part in here where me and Dr. K were like, whoa.
Whoa.
Honestly, like, we've all been here before. And like, I will fight you.
Yeah. And no, I think you captured everything perfectly. Even my students, they will just regurgitate what I say. That's not what I want. I want
Mm-mm.
open-ended critical thoughts coming out in the questions that I'm asking. I'm not asking artist title date. I don't care when
No, we
Caesar
know
was
that
stabbed.
already.
We know it. He was stabbed in 44.
I
But
want
like
to know your thoughts and your dreams.
exactly, tell me these things. Which ending of Iphigenia do you really prescribe yourself to? Like this is what I want to know. What keeps you up at night? Do you think Helen of Troy left willingly or not? Like this is what goes through my head each and every day that I just have to sound off of my priestess Chelsea.
I know. And it's like, I feel like more people need to enter the conversation. I feel like we're always constantly talking to each other and we disagree on a lot of things where we're like, aha, I see
Mhm.
your point, but also I don't take it that way, And I think it
Correct.
also is so plot twist. Dr. K and I disagree on a lot of things sometimes where she'll be like,
Yeah.
this is how I took it. And I'm like, oh, I see how that
Yeah.
is for you. But I actually took it this way. And I think it's normal to have differing opinions and views on things and being able to be like, I see what you're saying, but I disagree with you respectfully. And here's why. And it's
Yes.
okay if we don't have the same opinion about a myth. Like, that's the
Correct.
beauty of all of this.
As long as you're just bringing up comparable evidence of like, okay, I see your point about Iphigenia, but there's this really crazy ending that brings in Hecate. So, that's what I like, which we love. That's what we want.
I live for this. And no one in my family are big Greek myth people. So this is where I get to tell all my thoughts and my theories because my dad calls Hecate, what did he call her the other day? Hecate. He was like, who's that Hecate you're always talking about? I'm like, see, this is why I have a podcast because
I
no
got to
one
get it
knows.
out.
I got to get out my theories.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So at our symposium, when we start, people drink and like they philosophize over things. So Dr. K and I have brought our own drinks. So I think every time we have a symposium, and you guys please feel free to do this with us and let us know in the comments or drop a comment on YouTube or on our Instagram what you were drinking when you were listening to us.
Yes.
Please drink responsibly if you're drinking alcohol.
Yes, please.
Okay, anyways, your PSA. I have brought to the symposium just hot chamomile and honey tea. I am not drinking anything alcoholic today. I quite frankly didn't have any wine in the house, but so I'm drinking some hot tea. I'm just feeling cold. What are you drinking?
I got a nice red, a nice pinot
Nice.
noir. And shout out to one of the devotees from Sticks and Bones who sent Kevin and I these beautiful wine glasses for Christmas. But yeah, Mark West, if you guys are interested, please drink responsibly. It's adult grape juice, but I was feeling very Greek inspired that I had to bring out the wine.
If I had it, I would have also, and I did not feel like trekking in the cold to go get it. Because when we were deciding this today, I was like, oh
Fair.
my God, I should get a bottle of wine so I could bring my wine glass and like, talk. But I
Mhm.
was like, I'm not going outside. Sorry.
That's fair.
I'm gonna have chamomile and honey tea. So, shall we begin?
I think we shall. Where do you want to start? Where I know like at the beginning is
Do you
best, but
want to
like
introduce
where?
the topic of today?
Sure, why not? So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have all long seen the aspect of, Zeus is the king of gods, the king of kings, but he fears a female. The goddess of night, the personification of night, one of the primordial beings herself, the goddess Nyx. So that got, me and High Priestess Chelsea thinking, is Zeus actually afraid of Nyx? Where is it found? And is he actually afraid of Hera? Is this man afraid of anyone?
King of the
Or
gods, I might add.
or is the truth possibly a lot deeper? And once again, I know High Priestess Chelsea and I have really been comparing like a lot of Greek mythology, especially when it comes to the Trojan War in the Iliad. And you have to understand who is related to who, who's siding with who. It's almost like a very ancient Greek version of Game of Thrones. So you have
Yes.
to understand which pieces of the puzzle are moving, why, where. It's so much, but we're here to share our thoughts and theories about it. So, do you want to bring us in?
Sure. I'm going to start with my position on this.
Okay,
So, Dr. K and I are not going to recite to you book 14 and 15 of the Iliad because
no,
it
sorry.
is so many pages. So, if you are looking to follow along with us and maybe you want to read it and come back to this episode, we are citing the Iliad, book 14 and 15. We're going to be talking about Nyx and also Hera as well. It's going to be brought into the conversation because
Yes.
a lot of the discourse online and in Greek mythology communities is that Zeus is afraid of these two goddesses. I have come to believe that is actually the opposite. I don't think he fears them as much as people are proclaiming it to be. And I am standing on the opposition of, I believe he's just a king that is smart, sometimes smart in his decision making. And I'm going to say that because if you know Zeus and his mythology and you need a well rounded view of him in order to make this statement, because I think he's not always smart when, Zeus comes down and starts, you know,
Zeus.
Zeusing with the mortals, the nymphs, the powerful mortals, pissing off his wife, who's then leaving a trail of wrath. Different. But I have to think that he is the king of gods. He is one of, arguably, the strongest out of the three, arguably,
Mhm.
out of
Yeah.
out of him and his two brothers, Poseidon and Hades. I don't believe he's afraid of Nyx. I think he's smart in how he picks and chooses what he chooses to deal with. And if you want, I could read the section.
Yeah, if you want.
Like, do you think we feel like we need to give the backstory of what's going on, or
No, I think you can just read that little section if you want, or I can, because
go ahead?
I yeah, I kind of think it's a similar but like different take as well. I could honestly see how individuals are taking this statement to be like he fears her. I don't know if it's fear, but I think it's a healthy dose of respect
Mhm.
because the title of king can only take you so far. And I think there is so much more to that decision of sure he's the king of gods for now. And I think his own, genealogy plays a massive role in his decision making, because we've seen that prophecy time and time again, your son's going to usurp you. And it's been going on previously. But yeah, I do think that, even a king can respect somebody who's higher ranking than him. And that's kind of where I am. But you know what? Let me just read the section really quick. So this is in book
Okay,
14
go
of
ahead.
the Iliad. So this is when Hera is talking to Hypnos. Zeus was furious when he awoke and began hurling the gods about all over the house. He was looking more particularly for myself and would have flung me down through space into the sea where I should never have been heard of anymore, had not Night, who cows both men and gods, protected me. I fled to her, and Zeus left off looking for me in spite of his being so angry, for he did not dare do anything to displease Night. And now you are again asking me to do something on which I cannot venture.
Okay, interesting. So I think this depends on the translation of the book that you're reading too, because my translation's entirely different than the words are different.
Ooh.
So I think this is so plot twist for those of you that are like interested in Greek mythology, and some of you here are big enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
The version of the book and the translation is going to also shape the way that you are reading the myth. So let me read you the part with Nyx in my translation.
Yes, please, please hit me with it.
Okay. So obviously, Hera's talking to Hypnos, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
Hypnos, I want you to make Zeus fall asleep. And then Hera had tricked Hypnos another time to do this
Yeah,
in the story of Heracles, and Zeus was enraged, like Dr. K just read, like
not
throwing
happy.
gods, not happy because she threw Heracles off track and he was trying to help him. Long story short. So she's going back to Hypnos and being like, I need you to help me again. He's like, I'm not helping you because last time I almost got in big trouble.
I almost got in
Okay.
big trouble. So
You're
what are you gonna do
asking
for me?
me to stand up to King of the Gods, and I'm just the god of sleep. So please, my fair lady.
what are you going to do for me? I'll take a wife and maybe I'll do this for you.
Right. Well, we'll get to that in a second because I
Yeah.
marked that and I was like, men just cave. Okay. Anyway, Hera's so good at what she does. This is what it says. Okay, when Zeus woke up, he was incensed, throwing gods around his house, looking above all for me. He have he'd have tossed me from heaven into the sea, if Night, who subdues gods and men, had not saved me. I ran away to her, and Zeus held back, though still enraged, not wishing to offend swift Night. Now here you are again asking me to do something I simply must not do. See, that has a
Hmm.
different tone to it.
Yeah.
It's not yours was a little bit more he was afraid of Nyx, I felt like.
Afraid, but also like, I don't want to displease her. So almost kind of like political aspects of like he could be encroaching on her domain, which I mean, it's her child. So there's that. So it could be like a political like faux pas if he were to like go to Nyx and deal with her and her son.
Absolutely. And also, I think what you said earlier of the Zeus also knows that, he overthrew Kronos, like the same thing
Hmm.
can happen to him. And like when the time comes, if it ever comes, he needs to keep the balance in the realm between the Titans, the Primordials, the Olympians, because by the way, those titles are just generations of
Yeah.
gods. Everyone's a god and a goddess. Like Nyx is still a goddess, but she's a primordial being born of chaos.
Hmm.
And I think he knows he has to keep allies that are so powerful, such as the nighttime, right? Because people are traveling at night. Like she really does have this very special domain. She is
Oh
the
yeah.
night sky.
Oh, how she and her brother husband Erebus
Hmm.
are
I love that.
described are described in theogony, beautifully terrifying.
We did a podcast episode on it.
And like how they each take each other's hands to like literally entrench the world in darkness each and every day. Like it's beautiful and eerie and terrifying at the same time. But they are primordials. Like they were the first of the first.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of on the same side here for this one that I don't believe he's afraid of Nyx, but I think he's very smart and making a
Yes.
smart decision of like, I'm not going, this is something so lowly, like you kind of have to pick and choose your battles. Hypnos did what he did, but ultimately it was my wife.
Yeah.
And who's going to say no to Queen of the Gods as well? Because she's queen, like she's using her power and her domain to get someone to do something for her.
I also almost think it's kind of like when you have something happen to you, you're put asleep. You wake up, you're in a huff. You are just going on gut reaction instantly, whereas you're literally chasing the god of sleep to his mother's doorstep, deep in the underworld, mind you, who is a primordial being. And I
Yeah.
think, on his way down there, he probably had a little inner chat with himself of being like, why am I going after a literal child compared to me?
Yeah, I love Hypnos, amazing god of sleep, but he's not like Hera or
No.
Poseidon. He is a lesser being, and so a god nonetheless. But at what point, yeah, it's kind of like you wake up in a harumph and you're like, wow, I'm gonna punch somebody in the face, and then you have time to cool down. You're like, wait a minute, do I really need to bring this smoke to Nyx's doorstep? Because then I have to deal with her, and she's a primordial.
And she's going to choose her son over me.
Right, because he would choose his son as well. I mean, we've seen him choose Heracles all the time, and he wasn't even fully divine. So there you go. So I think, and probably we could assume, like I said, that Hypnos had to help Hera. Like I sometimes you don't have a choice when a king or queen of the gods is coming down and asking something of you. What are you supposed to do?
100%.
What
Like,
like he was put in a bad situation, Hypnos.
yeah, she was using her power and title
She's
to
doing it
get,
right now.
yeah, good. Like,
Okay,
she knows
wait.
what she has.
Wait, so
And
the next part, go ahead.
oh, so before we go on to the next part, which is also wild because sure. I also wanted to compare like if we were back in like the pre 7th century BC and we only really had theogony and the Iliad and Odyssey, would our opinions be any different? So I took all of the description of Nyx in theogony And I still think it would have been the same thing. I don't know if it's fear, but I think it's understanding positions
Yeah.
and like ranking, because at the end of the day, a title can come and go, but I think your generation and like status because of age and everything is always going to win.
Also, what you rule over. Like, you have
Correct.
to take that into account. It's like wanting to go piss off Helios. I mean, he's the literal god of the sun. Like, he can decide not to raise the sun up in the morning and really do some damage in the mortal realm, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, Zeus is really just god of like thunder, lightning,
Right. He just has
agriculture.
lightning bolts. And I mean this in the most blatant way possible, but it's not really a fight you want to pick, especially with these primordials that rule over these grand things that make the earth turn, you know?
This goddess came out of chaos,
Right.
is
It's like
married to
offending.
darkness.
It's like bringing this to Gaia's doorstep as well. It's like she's a little she created everything. So it's like
She's been around the block once before. She literally saw her husband get turned on and her
right.
son get turned on. Like she's been around. She knows.
So yeah, okay. I think we stand on the same thing. But the next part was really funny because in this moment we're seeing Hera try to convince Hypnos again to help her, and he's like, I'm not because Zeus was so annoyed last time and I had to go to my mom, basically. So Hera says to him, Sleep. Why concern your heart about these matters? Do you think all-seeing Zeus feels for Trojans the same rage he felt then for Heracles, his own son? But she's like, but come on. I'll give you as your wife one of the younger Graces. You can marry Pasithea, I think that's how you say your name, whom
Yeah.
you long for all day. So he must be just like sitting in the underworld, like staring at this like
Sure.
this younger goddess that's part of the Graces, and he's like, okay, I'll help you because he really wants her.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I see your bet, but you got to swear on the sticks that like you're gonna follow through because
It was a good.
power play. This man has been here before and is like, I'm going to get shot down by a lightning
Yeah,
bolt.
I'm gonna
I
be
want a
dead.
wife.
Yeah, and I love how she was just like, "Oh, come on, like don't worry yourself with this. I'm gonna give you a wife. I'm the goddess. I'm gonna give you a nice wife. I know you've been staring at her. I know you've been staring at her. I know it. I can give you her, and I'll arrange it." And they swear over
Oh
the
my.
sticks.
Just the goddess of marriage. You're welcome.
I'm gonna help you. Don't worry about it. So I could just, when you're like reading these stories, you could just see Hera doing this, like being like, no, 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 don't worry yourself with these matters. I'll take care of my husband. Just put him to sleep. I'm
Just
gonna
pish
give you a
posh.
nice wife. I'm gonna give you a nice wife. She's gonna cook you a good dinner, and
Like
you
you
can
get a
live.
wife, all you have to do is just make this grump fall asleep.
Yeah,
Like
just you make
really, you're
it.
coming out of this with a better deal.
We're on the same team here. So I really enjoyed that part. And it's been a long time since I've read this story. So I was like giggling, like kicking my feet, giggling.
Yes.
And I'm like, he got a wife. Like, good for Hera. Hear ye. Cheers to Hypno. So yeah, I think that's where we land on Nyx. But I think, is there anything else you wanted to add to the Nyx story or anything from this book?
No, I think, to get a better understanding, like, okay, it's a small passage of book 14. Like you're 14 chapters in, basically.
But it's a good passage if you
It's
read
a
it.
great
This was
passage.
like so funny. I was like, tee.
No matter which translation you get, that passage slaps.
It was good.
And you really find yourself in that of like, yeah, like why would I go to like beat up this kid when I'm gonna have to deal with the mom? But I would also recommend for people, if you're like, oh well, like where else could this be coming from? Look at the Theogony. Like look at how these individuals are being talked about. Understand, who was doing what, where, and why. Because
Hmm.
while she wasn't mentioned by name of having fought in the Titanomachy or the Gigantomachy, like Zeus, still has to play the game. At the end of the day, Greek mythology is just about playing the game of thrones, about who's in power and how much power you have.
This whole story, the whole Trojan War is about that. And the
Eh,
gods choosing sizes, and then the gods choosing sides, and then you're seeing the gods interact with one another because they're divided. They're like a house divided, you know?
yeah,
Hera and Zeus are completely different sides. And it's just like, and she actually seeks the help of Aphrodite, who's also for the Trojans. So like,
I love that part.
It's my favorite part. Aphrodite's like, yes, Hera, I'll help you. Who am I to say no to the queen of the gods? You're trying to seduce your husband. I will help you.
Women helping women, we love it.
I think she was just doing it just for chaos.
Oh, absolutely. I think any of the women who are, a girl's girl in Greek mythology, you're doing it because it'll be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, so basically, Hera is like, for those of you that are like, what are you guys talking about? She goes to Aphrodite and asks her for her help to seduce Zeus. And this is where she gets that famous, whatever you want to call it, a corset, a girdle that you put on, that's stitched with just like so much lust. And she's like, Aphrodite, can you please help me? Like, I really want to go and like seduce my husband. And Aphrodite's like giggling. And she's like, I know we're on different teams, but
Well,
I gotta help you, girl.
the lie that Hera tells her of like, oh, Oceanus and Tethys, who raised me. Well, mom and pa over there, they've been arguing a lot and they haven't slept with one another. And what is a good daughter to do? Daughter kind of by adoption because I didn't want to get eaten. So, I'm going to go help them. Can you do me a solid and give me your girdle?
Yeah, I actually thought Aphrodite knew that she was lying to her, because it's Hera. Like,
Oh,
if
100%.
you know Hera in mythology, you know she's up to no good. And I think Aphrodite knew she was gonna go do something to her husband, her brother husband. So she was like, I'm gonna help you, girl. Take your girdle. I don't know what you're doing with it. Don't say it was for me. How can I
Watch it before you
deny
bring
the
it
queen
back.
of the gods? How can I deny the queen of the gods, the one who is married to Zeus? That's basically what she was saying. She was being so like, oh, and how can
Coy.
I deny you? Yeah.
But it was so funny because I wanted Aphrodite to almost be like, yeah, like you're not, but like here you go anyway. Like tell Zeus it was me, kind of deal. Like, but I
Hmm.
get like even the women have to play the game, and it's interesting. At least in my translation, Aphrodite is said to be daughter of Zeus.
Same as well. And I had to read that 5 times over because I'm like,
Yeah,
why are you translating it as
there are some offshoots
I
with
know, I know. It's just like very rare that you ever see one. So I reread that and I'm like, this person's
that.
lying.
Huh?
I thought it was like a typo, and then I kept seeing it because they're referencing her as daughter of Zeus, and I'm like, oh, interesting take. But once again, it depends on what myth you're following and who.
Yeah,
Um, so I did really love that with Aphrodite.
I prefer the castration myth. Truly, if I'm going
Me
to be
too.
honest,
That one's so much better.
more fun. It's for the
More,
girls. That one.
it's more fun.
All right, where do you want to go next in like wrath, fear, tomfoolery? What do you want to do? I mean, there's so much.
What with Hera?
With Hera, yeah, I think we should do a little bit of Hera, and then maybe we even throw one of the kings in there.
Oh yeah. So I I think I don't even know where to start because there's this one part that Zeus says that I just made me want to actually scream into a pillow and fight him.
It was so jarring, and like you're almost having like flashbacks to like exes.
All right, I'll set the scene and then you read the
Oh,
what
okay,
he says.
okay.
Okay, so basically Hera is going to put her husband to sleep, and she has to sleep with him first, and then sleep is going to come and do his thing because men, after you are intimate with them, they usually fall asleep, right? So that's like a common thing. So, because they're like, oh yeah, that was fun, and then they're just like gone. So she's going over and she basically like bathes herself. The whole passage describes her getting dressed, which I loved because she was like putting on her oils, like her jewelry, her
It
girdle.
was so girl coded.
It was she knew what she was doing. Like her scents and everything,
Ah,
her sandals, like it describes it to a T. And I'm like, this is
yes,
exactly
this is a vibe.
when women need something, this is what they do.
Mhm.
And it's girl coded. It's just girly thing. So she goes to her husband and he's like basically like, what are you doing? Like what's going on? And he's like, I want to lie with you. Cause like the girdle that Aphrodite gifted her, like he's overcome with such
Desire.
lust.
Yeah,
And he's like, I need to lie with you right now. And she's like, I don't really want to lie with you right now because what if someone sees us? We're out in the open. They're on Mount Ida, correct?
yeah.
Okay. So she's like, what if someone sees us? Oh, I marked it because I was laughing. And then read the passage. But
It's fair. I saw that, and she's like, "Yeah, like, what if somebody like sees us? Like, I'm just a girl. Like,
Okay, wait.
I'm the queen."
So you know how we talked about how Helios is a snitch in one of the podcast episodes? I
Yes.
marked this just a little giggle and a tribute to last season. She was like, I'm worried about like the gods seeing us, and Zeus is like, even the sun god Helios will not see the two of us, and his rays are the most perceptive spies of all. And I'm like, see, we were correct when we said he was a snitch. Even Zeus knows that
Yeah.
because he's seeing everything. So he's trying to convince her, like, I'm gonna cover us up.
Yeah, with a golden cloud. Like, don't worry, like nobody's gonna see you. Like, he is literally like everything dripping off of his tongue is just whatever he can say to get her in bed.
Yeah,
So
because he's like filled with lust.
before
It's so
he
fun.
before she brings up like shit, I don't want to be seen kind of deal. Like, I don't want anybody to see us. He is basically like, no, I want to lay with you. And she's like, well, like, that's great. But like, I'm just a girl with errands and I have to go to the edge of the earth and I have to go see Oceanus in
Yeah,
Texas.
she's playing hard to get. Like I know what she's doing. She's being coy. She's like, no, I really can't.
I can't. I'm a very busy woman and I haven't got all day. But she's literally dressed as a seductress, like icon. So
Iconic.
here is the passage. And Zeus said, quote,
God, I can't. It's gonna make me scream. But go ahead.
Hera, you can choose some other time for paying your visit to Oceanus. For the present, let us devote ourselves to love and to the enjoyment of one another. Never yet have I been so overpowered by passion, neither for goddess nor mortal woman, as I am at this moment for yourself. Not even when I was in love with the wife of Ichion, who bore me Perithous, peer of the gods in council, nor yet with Danae, the daintily ankled daughter of Acrisis, who bore me the famed hero Perseus. Then there was the daughter of Phoenix, who bore me Minos. There was Semele in Thebes, by whom I begot my lion-hearted son Heracles, while Semele became mother to Bacchus, the comforter of mankind. There was Queen Demeter again, and lovely Leto and yourself. But with none of these was I ever so much enamored as I am now with you.
I was sent. I forgot about this passage and I was like, not you listing all of the affairs you've had and your bastard children and being like, but I still love you more.
But I've never felt what I feel for you right now. They were nothing compared to you, dear.
He even says he was in love with some of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see, and I didn't really realize that. I kind of thought that a lot of these things were just like trysts, and he's a king. So, like, unfortunately, if Zeus is coming for you, like, you don't really, you just gonna have to.
Duck and cover.
We have some goddesses that are running away that are like, whoa, because they don't want Hera's wrath.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he said he was in love with some of them, and he's saying this to his wife, and he's trying to sleep with her. I'm like, you have no game.
And he brought up
You have no game.
his sleeping with his other sister. Scream,
And
scream.
I, oop. Yeah, my translation's a little bit different, but was giving the same vibe. And it's like not you mentioning like Minos and like everything, the curse in that household. Like,
Like
please.
every fucking woman, like a just notch in his massive like belt. Like,
The fair-haired Lady Demeter. I'm like, that is your sister, sir.
sir, you
I
already got a
really,
sister wife.
my blood was boiling for her, and I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, plot twist. She winds up sleeping with him, right? Because she has to put him to sleep. And I'm like, that is a trooper because I probably would have.
She really put one up for the team there.
She
After
was
he listed all of his ex-lovers and the children and the offspring,
that she
and then
tried to kill.
yeah, and then was like, no, nobody's gonna see us. No, just come over here, nobody will see us. And then was like, there you go, thank you.
I was shook. And I know the rest of you that are listening are probably jaw drop on the floor, but this is why we say in Along Came Zeus. Because
Yeah.
anyway, but she had a mission in my mind. She had a mission. She knew like she knows his shady ways. She just had a mission. She's a girl on a mission. She's like, I need to sleep with my husband. So anyway, Hypnos comes, puts him to sleep.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo choo. So the question is, and maybe you have more evidence that you want to enter into context.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we didn't get to the part where he wakes up. I'm
He's
like
just
moving on.
He's just having a good time in book 14. He has
Yeah, no,
no idea.
so he wakes up and he is
Not well.
absolutely annoyed. He's annoyed with his wife, but I wouldn't say enraged, at least in my translation.
It seems like he like woke up, saw what was going on below of like with the Greeks and the Trojans, and he's like, son of a bitch, and like turns on her and is almost like, God damn it, I fell for you. And you are just like, I think in my translation, he calls her a mischief making trickster, that
Okay.
your cunning has stayed Hector from fighting and has caused the rout of his host. Like he is literally like, you.
So I have in my translation, he says to her, "You're impossible to deal with," and I feel like he's just like he wakes up and he's like, "Not son of a bitch,
Yeah,
not again." And I feel like he's like, "I was outwitted by my wife." I almost kind of feel like he gets joy in it, where he's like, "That was a good one." You know what?
you
Like
got me.
we had a good time, and you also got me. Like
Score two for you and maybe two for me because
that's how I took that. Where I kind of feel like him and Hera have like this have to get back at one another type energy, and I feel like he enjoys playing this. It's like a toxic
they
thing
are
going
very
on here.
tit for tat. Because after
Yeah.
he is literally like, you,
Well, by
he,
human standards, it would be toxic.
yeah, for them, it's just marriage.
Yeah.
Um, so after he wakes up and is like, you, he literally then throws back in her face of like, do you not remember that time that I literally hung you and none of the gods
Yes.
could literally come and get you?
And I'll do it again.
And I'll do it like, and he's literally like, you got me, but remember all the times I got you? And it's like,
Yeah, she
all
had
right.
like these little wins, but I feel like at the end of the day, because if you take the time period into consideration, the husband is always going to have the final say and you have to comply. So I actually noted on this, like, this is where he's putting her back into place and being like, okay, we had a fun little game, but like, remember, I'm the king of gods and I'm your husband, and what I say goes. And
And what was interesting and very cunning of Hera after is she then says, okay, like basically, yeah, like I fess up, like I did put you to sleep, but the
I did it.
reason that like hell is raining fire on your beloved downstairs is because of your brother. So what's good? And the
Yes.
following that is basically Zeus being like, well, if you ever would just take my side at council,
Right.
Poseidon would follow suit. Like it is,
It's like a family. It's so marriage coded because it's like like you're supposed to take the side of your husband even when you know he's wrong, and then you reprimand them behind closed doors. But Hera's just
yes.
doing it out in the open, and like Poseidon's like, well, if she doesn't have his side, well, then why am I? Because I don't give a shit. Like I'm my own king. So I feel like she like he's saying like if you were just like would obey and just be a good obedient wife in public and then yell at me behind the scenes, wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to give a special shout out to my Shayla Hades because he's not involved in this. I was reading this and I was kept going, my Shayla.
It's just downstairs.
He's just like, why are all these people dying?
Why is the shores of Acheron literally traffic jammed right now?
Like, thanks for making my life miserable.
Hell.
A lot of paperwork. But anyway, long story short, she winds up obeying Zeus.
In like a
And
harumph.
yeah, but she's like, kind of like you have a point, and like, fine, I have to obey him. He's my husband. He's king of the gods. Pick and choosing battles. So yeah, that was like really funny. I was laughing at that. I'm like, this is typical marriage. Like if you would have just listened.
Yeah, it was very crazy because then he's like, you need to go get Apollo and Iris and you need to tell them to come here because I have a job for them. And she just like has to like stomp all the way back to Olympus and be like, all right, well, I got him somewhere. So like score one for me, but at what cost?
Um, Another little funny moment was when with Athena and Ares, because I think that's like in the next few passages where Ares is like stomping off in a harumph and he's going to cause like all this chaos and war downstairs. And just because she's so logical, because he wants to disobey Zeus, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
do you not realize he will take a thunderbolt and put it against your head and turn you into a pile of ash? Like,
Again, with all of the corpses, and he is just so enraged because his own son are just
yes,
died. And she's like, I hear you,
could deal with this
but
later.
you're gonna have to do a workaround or find a loophole because he also will kill you.
Yeah, she's just like the voice of reason. Where I know like Hera, Athena gets pinned as like the daddy's girl of like she always has Zeus's best interest, but I thought that was a really good move by her because
Hmm.
she kind of, and then he like Ares winds up like obeying her and he goes and sits back on his throne. He's like, fine, but like my son was killed, so we're gonna deal with that later.
Yeah, it's interesting how like even within like the House of Olympus, everybody is like siblings are trying to help each other, but also are trying to carve out their own little niche of power.
Hmm.
And yeah, it is kind of the downside of like having mortal children of they're gonna die.
Yeah, I think it's because they don't have control sometimes over how they're going to die, and like they want them to have such glory and honor, and it's just like, yeah. So that was fun. Do we want to kind of end maybe with Poseidon and then
Yeah, I think we should because
because
I think
it was funny.
it's funny because you could almost kind of say like now we're having like sibling rivalry of except for, you know,
My Shayla.
the great child Hades just downstairs probably upset. But he hasn't been dragged in.
No, they make mention of him once, but it's with Poseidon's rebuttal. He makes
Yes.
mention of Hades, but that's it.
So Zeus, Spark Note Edition, is telling Iris, who's also a messenger to the gods, hey, you got to go tell Poseidon he cannot continue to intervene. Like, this is preposterous. This is not what we signed up for. We have to let literally like our game pieces decide the outcome. And there's this whole prophecy. And I promised Achilles'
Mhm.
mom that like this was going to happen. So he needs to like stand down or God help him because I'm going to come and deal with him.
And he has not been standing down. Like he's been on the battlefield whispering things in people's ears, coming up as an old man, like giving advice. Like he has been very present. Like he's
Just
been doing
raising
everything.
the seas and says, fucking come and get it. Like
He's been in war, like war mode, and I've never seen anything like it in my whole life. Like he's just been out there in the streets.
the troops rallying them. So then Iris is just like, fine. So she goes and goes, dark haired king. It's me.
Earthshaker, all his titles.
I'm just the goddess of rainbows,
Because
but
if
I
you're
have a
not afraid
message.
of Poseidon, what are you afraid of? Like they call him the Earthshaker.
So she's basically like, hey, I got a little message from Zeus. She relays it to him and he goes off. If there was ever a reason for his earth shaking, it is in this response of him
Yes.
basically being like, you tell him to stay in his lane because when we divided the realms, I got basically the middle realm of the seas and the earth. So he can just stay up there on his cloud and mind his business. Because if he says he wants to go toe to toe with me, we are equally matched. And
Bring the smoke.
he says he's older and more powerful, but is he? We both fought. So come on my realm and let's step outside, basically. And he brings in Hades in this point. It was like, no, we each got our realm. He got the skies,
Mhm.
I got the earth, Hades got the underworld. What's good? So Iris is just like, are you really going to make me tell him this?
Like, are you sure you want to say this? Because he is not playing around and I'm going to be the one that has to deliver the message. I feel so bad for her because she's going to have to go up to Olympus and be like, this is everything he said. And he's threatening Zeus. You know what I mean? Like, so then, like, Poseidon reconsiders. But
And
then,
then
once again, like, do you take that as fear of Zeus or do you take that as I'm kind of just going to throw the towel in because I don't want the smoke right now?
I took it as I'm going to go back in the seas because I can still scheme where he can't see me.
Yeah, I kind of took it as I don't think it's the right time to start a war with my brother because
We
I
have
have,
to let the mortals figure out their war first. And if I need to come back upstairs to deal with Zeus, I will, but I'll let the mortals deal with it first.
yeah, and then he basically says he concedes and he goes, but I'll tell you, this threat comes from my heart. It literally says, I'll concede for all my indignation, but I'll tell you that this threat comes from my heart. He will not abuse me with his angry words. Like he basically is like, do not threaten me because I'm gonna threaten you right back. I was Chad, I was crying laughing reading this. So,
Yeah, that was so I don't know if they fear him or if he fears them. I think it is strategically barking when needed to assert control and dominance, but you will retreat to bite when it matters most.
yeah, I think what we can learn a lot from the gods here is be strategic in some of the battles that you pick because myths are meant to, at the end of the day, teach us something or you're supposed to get something out of it. There's always a plot. And like I always take and I do apply this to my everyday life. Like you don't have to
Mhm.
bite back at every little thing. You can kind of be strategic about when you start your war and make sure you start it to win.
Mhm.
Like it's not necessary to fight everyone all the time, or concede all the time. So,
Yeah. So is Zeus afraid of Nyx and Hera, do you think? To wrap this up?
um, I if I had to pick who he was afraid of more, I think it'd be Nyx. Like, I think he knows his own wife really well. I think Nyx is kind of like a question mark. She kind of stays out of things, she just is. So I think he can dancing with the devil, like his own wife, because he knows how she operates. Sometimes, I mean, she got him good this time. But I think Nyx is just someone that you just don't know, you
Yeah,
know?
I firmly agree with that. He knows his siblings better than anybody
Of
else.
course.
And that's
He
why I think
knows.
even though he's the youngest, he will try and like push whatever buttons he can to an extent. And I think everybody knows, just like you know today, if you have siblings and you grew up with them, you know exactly how much to push before it gets bad.
You know their Achilles heel, pun intended. Uh,
Achilles.
my Shayla. No, no, I'm thinking of the Song of Achilles retelling. Not the same, not even the same. That's why if you guys love Song of Achilles, you should actually read the real myth because you're gonna be like, how did we get to that plot?
This man is a war criminal.
And were they just roommates? I don't know. We maybe need to do a podcast episode on that of like bringing the evidence of like were they actually lovers?
Or were
Because
they
it
just
doesn't
really good
implicitly
friends?
state.
Were they just really good friends? I don't know.
And they were roommates. I would like to think they were more than friends, but
I'd like to think so too. I
it
mean,
adds more to the story for me. LGBTQIA plus representation in the Trojan War. I'm here for it.
the Greeks were about as straight as a circle. So
We're gonna dive into that. We have episodes planned. We're gonna go through Apollo's lovers in one episode, and let me tell you, he is about as straight as a circle as well, and we love to see it.
yeah.
We're here for Zeus, not straight.
Did you turn your lover into a flower? Like
Oh my
so many
God.
of the gods and goddesses did?
Why are you accepting anything less?
When he says, I love you, but
Did you know Hades also has other wives? You guys don't know this, but we do, and we're gonna be talking all about it here on the Six Bones podcast.
Zeus has other wives.
Did you know Hermes was a lover of Aphrodite? I have so much more useless information to tell.
And the goddamn curse of the house of Theseus, man. Nobody curses households anymore. Like, where's a good household curse?
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. I mean, the girls are just not cursing like they used to.
No,
That's
not.
why we don't have any new stories.
Nobody's answering riddles from the Sphinx. We got boring.
This is why we have our symposium because I want to talk about these things. I have no one to talk about these. Well, I talk to you, but it's like, I hope you guys feel like you're on like a FaceTime conversation with us because this is truly what we talk about. I'm not even kidding. We're like, hey, maybe we should like open the symposium, like have some other free thinking thoughts going on.
Are mediums the same thing as necromancers in the ancient world?
We were on the phone at 7 o'clock last night, talked about this for an hour. And then I was like, 10, I have to go. And then I was like, but wait, another point.
But actually,
We talked about it for an hour of do
life.
mediums fall under necromancy and were they existing in the ancient world and how?
I was whipping out my books, being like, well, there's this one word.
And we're like, but are we sure?
Are we sure? What does your translation say?
So yeah, so this is gonna also depend on your translation. I feel like a news anchor. And
News.
you might take it differently depending on the translation as well, because the words definitely matter for me.
Yeah, words matter. The same kind of mood was invoked in each passage, but if you are going to go verbatim, we should be going to the original source in ancient Greek. But translations are going to have to do for right now. But even in ancient Greek, you get misinterpretations, different translations. It's something that we see with so many different ancient sources that there is no one correct retelling, translation, anything,
Mhm.
because so many of these words will have multiple meanings. So I kind of love that as, somebody in 2025 still talking about Homer like almost 3,000 years ago. It's
I
it's
know, it makes
crazy.
me my Shayla, my other
I
Shayla.
my Shayla, and was this something that people had been talking about for hundreds of years before he wrote it
Yes.
down? Like, how much of this was part of just human history prior? And another symposium topic. But anything else you want to add before I send us away?
No, I think I've got all of my theories and thoughts out, and this is why I need a symposium. I need a place to just info dump on people that also want to info dump. So let us know in the comments what you also think. Do you disagree with us? I'm down for people disagreeing with us. You could disagree and be like, no, Zeus is a coward. Fair. All right, fine.
Fair. Hey,
Back
okay,
it up.
man.
Back it up. I want to see some information. So no, I have no thoughts. No more thoughts, just vibes.
Just vibes. We have so many vibes coming this way for the new season of Sticks and Bones. For more Sticks and Bones, you can go ahead and join us over on the Mystery Cult, aka Patreon. And yeah, we have some more fun news coming out about YouTube this season. So stay
Oh
tuned
yeah.
about that. And yeah, High Priestess Chelsea has the High Priestess Chelsea
You almost
podcast.
said the ghost whisperer, didn't you? I saw it in your face.
Yeah, that I'm still
I've
not there yet.
changed my name 5 times, so it's okay.
High Priestess Chelsea is over on the High Priestess Chelsea podcast, and she is actually dropping every single week. Sticks and Bones is still going to be bi weekly, and the Dirt Diaries returns February 5th, and we are coming back bi weekly as well. But of course, you can go ahead and check out all three of those YouTube channels and more. From us to you, we are so excited to continue on with Sticks and Bones this season. We have missed you guys from the underworld, and yeah, we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.